Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Bad Thoughts Podcast. Today we have a special guest, our buddy Adam Murray. He's joining us today. How you doing today, Adam?
I'm great, dudes. I'm great. I'm
Good,
happy
good.
to be here. Is that Superman behind you?
Oh yeah, this
Also,
one.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I
Actually,
just
funny
noticed
story.
that.
I got these three posters at a garage sale, and this lady was selling them. I got all three of them for $7, and they're
What?
really, yeah, they're like really legit, like posters too. They have the
What?
Marvel sticker on them and everything.
What's the one with like all the people?
This one's a Captain America one.
No,
It
no,
had
the one that looks like it's like a bunch of people
Oh,
in a line.
it says DC comic, and it has all the DC characters on each letter.
Oh, it's so
Yeah,
far away and so small here. It looks like
I
it's a
know,
bunch of people standing side by side.
right? But yeah, I
That's Ryan
appreciate you
Reynolds
for
on the
coming
sea,
on,
right?
man. Yes, actually. Oh, Green Lantern. Yeah, I didn't even notice that actually. Oh man, but how you doing today, Candid? What's going on, bro?
I'm doing all right, man. Just chilling, living life. Got a little bit of this, got a little bit of that, over there and over here. You know how it goes.
I do, bro.
Do you
Good,
actually
good.
go camping a lot? Like just the
I
name?
used to, yeah. Funny story. I actually done the most camping with Tones. Like it's
Yeah.
the weirdest thing. I
Okay.
never thought of that. Like for some reason, he always somehow ends up on our camping trips, which is great. But yeah, I
Do you
love.
do like proper tent camping, or do you
Oh
like
yeah.
bring
Yeah,
like a
no,
camper that's like air conditioned? Are you one of those people?
no. We definitely go into the tents. Now that we are getting older, and then my dad retired, so he does have the RV. So he'll bring the RV and the camper, but there's not enough room for us, so we'll
I
stay
feel
with the
like
old tent.
I feel like anyone who's gone camping, like proper camping, at some point has had like the one experience where either everything gets wet or
Mm.
like you, somehow the zipper didn't close all the way
Close.
and
Yeah.
mosquitoes came in and
Oh.
just gnarled your feet for some
Oh
reason.
yeah.
Like there's just something. There's
Mine
always some.
Mine's always the heat in the morning. Somehow I always face the sun, and it just
Oh,
hits the.
just bakes you.
Yes, I wake up all sweaty and nasty. Then you go outside and
I
it's
hate that,
freezing
dude.
0% outside, 0 cold. Like what the fuck is this? So yeah,
Yeah.
camping
There's some.
now it's rough.
I feel like there's some part of camping where like after you do it, if you're gone for like 3 days or something or 4 days, and towards the end you're like, why do we do this? And then
Oh,
sometimes
every
you just
time,
come back to do it later, like, oh,
every
we're
time.
doing it again. Yeah.
And then your shit goes everywhere too. Like you can't just keep things clean like it's your normal house. It just shit everywhere, and you have
Yeah.
to fucking then stuff back in the bag. You're like, how did I end up with more shit
Yeah.
today?
It
Exactly.
won't fit back in.
No,
Then you
I
smell
think
like a damn fire for a
yeah,
whole week.
exactly.
Oh,
I think that's the
I don't.
worst part about camping is coming back. There's sand everywhere in your car and your house. There's everything smells like campfire. I think that's
I don't.
like the worst part about camping.
I don't mind the campfire smell so much as it's like just. I don't know if you're somewhere that doesn't have a proper shower, like you're just gross.
Hmm.
Especially after like 3 days of being outside.
Oh yeah.
Gross is the only word to describe.
I think camping you only go like for me I'll only go in a tent and but the only thing is I have to have a good shower at the camping spot like at the
Yeah,
camping.
And we've gone to places that have really good showers. You
Oh
gotta
yeah.
remember, in California, we're in California. We have lakes, rivers, you name it, everywhere. So there's
Hmm.
proper campsites pretty much anywhere
what
we can go.
what part of California are you guys in?
I'm in Northern California, so near
Okay,
Yeah.
Sacramento, kind of. Yeah.
I'm
I,
flying. I'm flying into where am I flying into? I think San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
okay.
That's not too far
Yeah.
from me.
Like in a couple of weeks.
That's where I'm from. I'm from San Francisco.
Are you there now?
No, I actually just moved for my job back in February. I live in
Oh,
I live by Reno, Nevada.
okay. I was gonna say, well, if you guys were near one of those things, I'd meet up for you guys for lunch or something
Oh,
whenever.
that'd
Hell
be
yeah,
But
dude!
awesome.
I'm going down there sometime in the next like month. Going down there because the only thing is like on the way back down to Northern California, there's like one road that always gets icy and snowy around this time, so it's hard to
oh god,
travel.
You
But
does
probably
it
heard of
get
it.
does
You heard of Donner, right? Donner Pass,
no?
the Donner Party.
Does,
People that ate it, they ate
yeah,
themselves.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The eight
Yeah,
people.
yeah. So that's
You're
pretty
talking
much
about
what it is.
Jeffrey Dahmer?
No, 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 not Jeffrey Donner. No, it was a Donner Party. They got lost out in the snow, and to the point where they started eating each other. And then they found out they're only
Uh,
like a couple miles away from the actual road the whole time. Yeah.
No way. I actually never heard
What?
that,
I think, it was,
dude.
I think it was like 2 miles away, and no one could find. I mean, it's snowed out, man. And you've been up there, you know how bad it is.
Yeah, man.
San
I think it's
Francisco, yeah. So the
That's cool.
22nd, I'm flying into San Francisco. The
okay, nice.
22nd,
If you
22nd
get
to the
time,
29th.
are you there for business or just kind of like leisure?
No, I have a friend out there that I haven't seen in years, and so I had all these credits on Delta that were going to expire at the end of the year, and so I was like, well, let me just
Hell yeah.
schedule some trips,
Oh
and
yeah.
if I have to cancel them because of work or something, I was going to lose the points anyway, so
Yeah.
who cares? So I have a trip scheduled for like San Francisco, Arizona, New York. I'm flying into El Paso to go to Arizona, and then it's like some dudes I met on TikTok that like play pool. So they're doing like a pool tournament for like 4 days, and they're cooking and everything. So all I had to do was get there and just have fun and chat around.
Hey, hell yeah, dude. That's dope.
So
Dude,
I'm
that's like
seeing,
living your best life.
yeah. And I also scheduled a trip to like Europe for September, which I don't have that all planned out, but I figure I've got time. You
Yeah.
know,
You say that until the week of.
yeah,
I know.
and then I'm like, oh no, Airbnbs are so expensive now. What happened? Why didn't I figure this out?
Every time,
Oh
every
man.
time.
So Adam, if for the viewers watching, if you can kind of explain, who you are and what you do, if you don't mind.
Yeah, yeah. My name is Adam Murray. I'm a comedian and an actor. And in the last couple of years, I've been on some cool shows like Stranger Things, She-Hulk, Cobra Kai, Lala Crocodile, a Ron Howard movie called Hillbilly Elegy, a bunch of other things that I'm forgetting right now. Um, there's there's some BET shows. I've done like 3 or 4 BET shows now. I don't know.
Nice.
It's bizarre to think that I've done stuff that like, oh, it's just in a Mark Wahlberg movie. I can't believe I'm forgetting that.
Oh,
It
nice.
was on
What?
Apple Plus. It's called The Family Plan. It's on Apple Plus. It's like a funny. Do you remember what was that movie? It was like Mr. Nobody, or it was just called Nobody. It was the guy from Upright Citizens Brigade, but like he played a regular guy who used to be in like the CIA or something, and then
Oh,
like
okay.
something happens and he has to like kick it in. Like there was a crazy fight scene in a bus where he like takes his gun and like dumps out the bullets and he's like, "I'm not letting you guys leave." Like it's like that, but it's a comedy. Did you not see that
Oh,
movie,
okay.
Nobody?
No, I don't think I
No.
have. No.
What? Dude.
Yeah.
It
I'll
was
have to look.
like it was like John Wick, but it was like a nobody kind of guy, and it was so great. It had who was the guy that was I
He
can't believe I'm
played
blanking on his name.
Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah, Bob Odenkirk. He trained for like 2 years to be physically fit enough to do, and it's the guy who was the crazy professor from Back to the Future.
Oh, Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd is like his dad in like an old folks home, and like he kicks ass in it too. But there's like some parts of him that's like, okay, he is really old. He's showing his age just a little
Yep.
bit. But dude, if you haven't seen that movie, so good.
I'll have to
I
go check
am
that out.
not in
Yeah.
that movie, but you should totally still see it. It's so good.
So what would you say your top 2 that you were in? Like what was the one that really made you like, yeah, I can't believe I'm in this and now this is my time?
Uh well, one of those isn't out yet. I can't talk about it. But another one, I mean, Stranger Things for sure. Like, I mean, Stranger Things and Cobra Kai. I mean, even though my part in Cobra Kai is really tiny, those are both like,
That's Cobra Kai,
you know,
dude.
Iconic. Yeah, they're
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
iconic.
love the show, and it was like, I mean, with Stranger Things, like, I got to go to Germany. Like
Mm,
I got invited to a Comic-Con in Germany. Like people wore T-shirts with my face on it. Like you know how crazy it is to see that for the
that's
first time. Like just someone
I
walking
bet.
by with like it's bizarre. Like I mean, it's exciting, but at the same time, it's like it's so weird
Yeah,
seeing your face on a T-shirt for the first. Like what? You
that's
never think
awesome.
that. You never think that day is going to happen. That's crazy. You know the
No.
amount
Yeah.
of the amount of friends that I had for, I mean, some for decades that reached out to me like, "Hey man, would you sign an autograph for my daughter? She's like a big fan of the show." Like the amount of, don't tell anyone I asked this, but if you wouldn't mind, the amount of messages like that I got from like big burly bearded dudes that I've done stand-up comedy with
Oh
for like a
yeah.
decade.
Oh yeah. Even though Stranger Things was like a, there was child actors, it was still a great show that everyone of all ages can enjoy. Like Stranger Things was
Yeah,
a great show, a
I
really
had
good show.
like my stepmom who's like in her 70s. I was on the phone with her when I booked it. I was walking into Publix, I remember, and I got a phone call and I was like, "Hold on, I got to answer this. I don't know who this is." And it was Wardrobe, and they're like, "Hey, this is Wardrobe from Stranger Things. We're just trying to get your sizes." And I was like, "Is this does this mean I booked it?" And she's like, "No one's told you yet?" Because
Oh no.
normally the way it goes is like your agent reaches out to you and like, "Dude, here's the offer. Uh, you know, we're doing the whole thing, and like you know, they've accepted, blah blah blah." There was
Yeah.
none of that. There was just like, I know I was on hold for it. I think they had said I was like right of first refusal or something, or I was on hold or pinned or something. So maybe that was where the negotiation happened with like, yeah, yeah, we'll do. We're not going to try to uh, argue over pennies on this. I just want to be involved, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And yeah, they just called me as I was walking in. They're like, "No one told you?" I'm like, "No, no one fucking told me." They're like, "Well, surprise!" Like,
I know, right?
she was so uncomfortable with the fact that I had no idea. But yeah,
I got a question about that actually. Sorry to cut you off, but like when
go
you
ahead.
said that the penny on the dollar, and having to argue amounts, is there like if someone called you about like for instance Cobra Kai, you sit there and like, dude, I just want to be in this damn show. Like do you just take whatever they offer at that point?
I mean, so I'm just starting to get to the point where like where agents and managers will like argue over how much the person should get paid, and it depends on the role, which I'm starting to find out it's not so much. Uh, at some point, it becomes who the actor is and how big they are, but a lot of times it's basically what the role is. So
Okay.
like, is it are you playing cab driver number four, or is it John Charles? Like, is it a
Gotcha. Gotcha.
named
Okay.
character? And how much of it are you in? Are you guest star? Are you co-star? Co-star is like typically five and under lines. There's no clear line of delineation between co-star and guest star. Sometimes there's like things that should be guest star that are still labeled as co-star. And the reason being is there's a big pay bump from co-star to guest star, and a lot of times they're trying to not make that pay jump. But also like my agent in California is very much so against anyone accepting any role for scale. She wants like double scaling up for all sorts of things. And that's kind of like just because she's like a big, you know,
Badass.
high profile agency and stuff.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
but like a lot of stuff in the Southeast, at least for a long time, you know, the most you got, if you were above scale, it was scale plus 10% is what they called it, which is like the minimum jump up. And basically, they do that because that puts you in a different tier. That there's a whole residual thing with it that like your agent gets residuals on stuff they wouldn't normally get, and all. I don't know. It's just I pay my agents 10% on all the residuals, so I don't. I've heard that there's certain stuff you're not supposed to, but I kind of feel like uh, it's just you're biting the hand that feeds. And
Mm.
every time, the way I look at it, every time you send your agent money, that's reminding them that you exist, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, that awesome dude. Let's see if we can submit him for stuff."
I assume they have
You know?
multiple people underneath their wings too. So you want to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
that standout. And if you're giving someone 10% versus the 5% guy, guess who's going to get that job next most of the time, right?
Well, 10% is like the minimum, but if people like apparently the way it breaks down is there's some things like I think it's like international residuals you're not supposed to. give them 10% on or whatever. But I mean, you're talking at the scale that I'm at, I'm not doing things that are like $1 million checks where like 10% is like 100 grand. When you're
Yeah.
talking about getting a check coming in that's $1,000, 1,100 if it's a big one kind of thing, and you're talking about sending a check to them for $100, is it worth it to you to send them a check for 75 instead of 100? Like, is that $25 gonna matter?
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Because
Exactly.
they're getting a piece of everything else. So like, did you really want to? I think that's just what I do is I send them a copy of the breakdown and go, how much do I owe you? Because they know certain things like you can get like meal penalties for things like if they go over on a shoot day and they didn't plan for a meal, then the union gives you like a meal penalty, and it could be a couple $100, and they don't get a commission on penalties. So like meal penalties and
Okay.
things like that. I mean, some of the penalties can be pretty big. I got one for one TV show that like the union had to fight to pay me, so they gave me like I forget what they called it. It was um, like a begrudging thing, or I forget what the hell
Kind
they
of like
called it.
back. Was it like back pay or something like that?
It was like they gave them. So I got the back pay because they owed me for something, but they also like they charged the production a penalty for
Gotcha. Okay.
and as I was told, they do this for like if this production has like done this to a lot of people, then they give them a big slap on the wrist, and then they just gave me that money that they fined them, I guess, or like a large portion of it or
Oh
something.
wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like they had owed me something like uh like $1,500 or something like that. So they gave me the $1,500, and then I got another check for like you know my troubles for having to wait and all that. That was like 7 grand or 9 grand
Wow.
or something like that. And I was like, this is what is this? Like I'm happy to have it, but like what the fuck is this? And it was told to me there was basically like a penalty because they and
Nice.
that's the only time I mean, there's been a surprising amount of projects that I've had to like, fight over stuff that they should have already, paid. But like, it's funny. You used to when I was starting out, when I was doing like non-union stuff, there were some things like it would take forever to get paid for something like, you know, we're talking months, and my agents are fighting with them like, hey, you need to pay us or whatever. And there was when I was starting out, I was like, I can't wait till I'm doing union stuff, and then that won't happen. And dude,
Yep.
I was talking with a union, and they were telling me because I was waiting on something that we like initially to get paid on the project. It took, I mean, months. Like I was like canceling stand-up gigs to do this thing because they'd be like, we're going to shoot on this date. And they're like, actually, we're on this date. So, like, I would, I preemptively canceled the one, and then the last minute booking, so I'm canceling like weeks upon weeks of stand-up, if not months of stand-up for like a couple projects. And then they're not paying. And it's just like, because stand-up, you get paid that weekend, you know? So that was like, the intermixing it was just keeping me going. And I don't know, man. It was getting dicey there for a little while. And like this was like I think 2020 or 2021, like when we were first out of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So it was I don't
Yeah.
know, man. It was crazy. Like some of those projects, it was like. So anyway, I was talking to someone at the union. They were telling. I was like, how long does it take for these kind of like discrepancies to get sorted out? And they were like, we've had one that's been going for 7 years. I was
Wow.
like, 7 years? Someone's
Holy
still
shit.
waiting? Because like they rack up penalties for that kind of stuff, like how long it takes. But on a lot of them, there's like a maximum, like the penalties max out, I think.
Oh,
And
damn.
so like it doesn't matter to them if it's once it's past that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So, Adam, how'd you, kind of a standard question. How did you get into acting?
uh well, I was actually a stand-up comedian first. I
Okay.
wanted to be an actor when I was younger, and I came really close to. I almost got booked in the movie Bully. You ever heard of the movie Bully?
Oh yeah.
It's done by the same guy that did Kids and Gummo, uh, and so I was like, I don't know, acting a fool like I normally did, and the producer and Bayou Phillips saw me. Apparently, it was Bayou Phillips that like picked me out uh, at like a Barnes and Noble or a Borders. It was a Borders. I was looking for the movie um, Office Space. It wasn't very popular when it was in theaters, so when they released it on DVD, stores got such few copies of it that you just had to go around the stores trying to find it.
Yeah.
And I did this thing where like I knew they probably didn't have a copy, and I asked the clerk if they had a copy, and when he said no, I like freaked out, like kind of thing. And I was like, all right, fine. Like I did the switch where
Yeah.
I went from like crazy to like even keel, and I thought that was hysterical. I was just doing it to make myself, and I think my brother laughed. I think my brother was with me or a friend. We were walking out, and this producer walked up to me with Bayou Phillips, who I had no idea who she was at the time, and they said they wanted me to be in this movie Kids, and I got to meet like the whole cast and the director, and I was a little wary about it because I was getting ready to go to college, and so I turned it down. And the guy who ended up getting my part, did you ever see the movie Mean Girls?
Oh yeah.
He was the gay best friend in Mean Girls,
Oh no
and
way.
that ended up being I think his first movie, and so he was like the the part that I was supposed to play, he got. And then I ended up going to college and all that, and I ended up getting into stand up comedy like a decade later. Maybe not quite a decade, 9, 8 years, something like that later.
Yeah.
And I saw a talk about the business of comedy from Ralphie May, and he said that people want to go see the comic they know from TV. They if they don't know, it's very difficult to become famous being a comedian just from doing comedy. You really have to, they have to know you from TV. Now there's things like you can go viral on the internet, like Matt
Yeah.
Rife, but before you really had to be known some other way. And so I was like, all right, well, I'll start taking some acting classes because he said you got to take acting classes even before, like, when you can't afford it, you're broke as shit. Take whatever acting classes you can afford because by the time they offer you a sitcom, he said he'd seen several people that had been offered a sitcom, they found out they can't act, and it's over. That was your chance.
Mm,
You blew it. So I started taking acting classes, and I took acting classes consistently for like a decade, right? And in Florida, where I started in Orlando, there wasn't really any film or TV. It was just commercials. There was a couple like indie films and shit like that, and it wasn't until I started to get an Atlanta agent and that was Atlanta really wasn't what it is now. For a while it was just like, oh, I think they're starting to film stuff there. Uh, and it just really blew up in a couple of years, like a short span of time. I got my Atlanta agent, I think in like 2016 or 2015, somewhere there, and then like I started to get on like crime reenactment shows, which was interesting because like one of them I posted on Facebook about being in it when it came out, and somehow like the real family from that crime or whatever was their reenactment found my post and we're like, we're so happy you guys redid. I was like, how the fuck did you
wow.
find me? Like it's not like I tagged stuff and they were like following hash. I have no idea how
That's
they
crazy.
found me. Uh, Maybe they just looked up the people who were in the episode. And it's not like I didn't have a big part. Uh, but at any rate, I started doing those. And then the first big thing I booked was The Gifted on Fox, which is an X-Men themed show.
Yep.
And then after that, I was able to get on on a show or a movie called Hillbilly Elegy with Ron Howard, and that I think was my first real big break. And by the way, it wasn't all just like slowly going and everything all good. Like when I first started out, I had like sideburns. Like the first indie film I did, I had like these big old sideburns, and they didn't want me to cut them, so they wanted them just. They were getting monstrous. Like Wolverine would have been jealous of these sideburns. And I tried to get. There was like I was saying in Florida, it was all just commercials, and I had heard that there were a couple agents who had uh, connections with like film and TV stuff, which is what I wanted to do. And I went and uh, submitted to these bigger agents that I thought would get me the work I was looking for. And I got a meeting with an agent in I want to say it was like Clearwater, wherever this place was. It was close to a 2 hour drive each direction, and I was broke as shit. And I was driving a big old Grand Marquis with a V8 at the time. So I took like all the money I had and put it in the gas tank because I was worried I would run out of gas if I went, did anything else with the
Yeah,
money.
exactly.
And I drove down there, and the person who had set up the meeting for me to be there wasn't there. I don't know if she had quit or gotten fired or just did or forgot about me. The only person that was there was the lady who owned the agency. And she had this fancy office, like the entire office wall was glass. So I could
Mm.
see her there, and I'm sitting there. Mind you, it used to be a modeling agency. So it was a modeling agency that transitioned into like film and TV. And I go in there looking like this, and I was just sitting in the like I was happier than a pig in shit because I'm like, this is like a huge agency. This is
Yeah,
gonna be great. They're
exactly.
gonna get me all the things. And this lady is like looking over at me and like going back to her desk and looking over at me like this dude's still here. You could see her getting more and more annoyed, and finally she just goes and goes walking over me and goes, "Why are you here? Not how can I help you or
Jesus.
what you just why are you here?" Just like clearly very um, upset. And she I told her I was here to speak to someone. They're like, "Yeah, she's not here." And I was like, "Oh, I'm supposed to have a meeting?" And this lady told me, she's like, "I'm just gonna be honest with you. You look too weird. You're never gonna work a day in this industry. Just get the fuck out of my office." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Just out." And I was like, "What?" It was the longest fucking 2 hour drive home. Like I think I remember vividly buying my dinner that night with the change in my ashtray at like a Wendy's drive-through to get like their like double stack for like $1.05 or whatever, and you can get lettuce and
Yeah.
tomato on. It was like my cheap meal, just getting this double stack or whatever. And it turns out I started. I learned something in the industry. When you get a callback for something, or you get booked for something, when production tells the agents like who booked what, everyone gets a list of everyone who booked it, whether they're with your agency or not. So they start, every agent sees that, right? And I was being looked at some months later for a TV show that was starring Rob Schneider. Rob Schneider had come to Florida to film this thing, and they originally looked at me for a marijuana co-op manager because, of course, they did. And then they started looking at me for like the number 3 on the call sheet, which was part of the stalker. So it would have been like Rob Schneider, his wife, and then me on the call sheet. And next thing I know, that agency reached back out to me, and they were like, "Hey, we went through some like old emails, and we saw your headshot, and we realized we don't have anyone like you. Would like to represent you." And here's the thing: I never emailed them because everyone emails agents. I wanted to stand out, so I physically mailed them a copy of my headshot and resume because I felt like everyone had to. You can ignore an email, but like when you get a pile of mail on your desk, you open all the
Yep.
envelopes,
Oh yeah.
and at some point they have to see me and decide if they're going to throw the headshot in the trash or whatever. Uh, we have to physically do something with it. And I thought that was a good way to do it. But anyway, so I had a choice at this moment. Do I tell them to go fuck themselves, or can I curse on this?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Should I?
yeah. You're good. You're
I
good.
was I was like, do I tell them to go? I asked after I've dropped like four F bombs. I've been cursing this whole halfway through, and I'm cursing.
Oh no, we're sailors over here.
But I was like, do I tell them to go fuck themselves, or do I swallow my pride and try to understand that they have access to what I want? And so I agreed to meet with
Was
them,
that
and
the same? Was that the same agency that the lady kicked you out?
yeah,
Was
yeah,
that
yeah.
the same one?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They reached back out to me and were like, "Hey, because they were seeing my name over and over again. They saw me booking stuff and they saw me getting called back repeatedly for this Rob Schneider show. Like they
Okay.
knew all about it before I got there, and so they told me they wanted to represent me for film and TV. And it ended. I only booked one thing with them, which was a commercial, and they kind of fucked me on it. Or it was supposed to be like just local cable. And when I got there, the contract they wanted me to sign was in perpetuity all media, which means that they can use it forever and on any broadcast medium they want everywhere. And I was like arguing with the lady, like, that's not what I agreed to. And she got all mad and called my agent. And instead of my agent taking my side, she's like, you got to sign this. Because this lady was like, it was like a private client of theirs. And the client was worth more money than I was, kind of thing. So uh,
Jeez.
they ended up like when I started talking to them about because I had an interest in getting an Atlanta agent, and so I was like, I don't want to step on you guys' toes, but can I go? Like, would you be upset if I started looking into getting an Atlanta agent? Uh, and they were like, oh yeah, that's totally fine. They said it was totally fine, but they didn't send me another audition or anything again after that until I started booking stuff with my Atlanta agent that I eventually got. It took me a year to get an Atlanta agent. And once I started booking stuff, they sent me, it was like 2 years later, they sent me a thing saying, hey, they wanted me to fill out like a tax form, like a 1099. And I wrote back to them and I was like, did you send this? Did you mean to send this to me? Like, I haven't heard from you guys in like 2 years. Like, did you send this to everybody or was it just me? And they didn't respond. I don't know how that read to them over text, but I
God.
assume it had to be they just saw that I was doing stuff and I had a bigger resume and they're like, all right, we should get him back now.
Yeah.
And, I mean,
Yeah, that's
just
crazy,
So,
man.
so you haven't done anything with them since, though.
no. I'm not
Yeah.
represented by them. That's but like three times they were not good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too many
Yeah.
times at that point. And it sucks because, like I said, you're in like that rock and a hard place because it's like, yeah, I do want this. This is something I want. And sometimes taking the higher road and being a better human can help boost you and maybe change other people's minds. But you did that 3 times, and
Yeah.
it
Well, I
changed
mean,
their
like,
nothing changed on their end.
well, like the first time telling me to go fuck myself and then screwing me over on the commercial and then waiting till I was doing well with someone else and trying to get
Yeah,
like each of those are
shady business.
gross in their own
Yeah.
way. And it's like, why would I want to do anything to step on the toes of my Atlanta agent who was treating me nice the whole time? And they
Yeah.
were great dudes. And the funny thing is like when I first got with them, they weren't considered one of the best. And now they're considered like one of, if not the best in Atlanta. Like they grew, much like I did. So we grew together,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
which has
awesome.
been amazing, you know.
Yeah. I bet. So Adam, I wanted to ask you, Candid and I, we did a episode on my other channel, Bad Thought Studios, where we did our top 5 recommended TV shows on Netflix, and Stranger Things was one of my favorites on Netflix. But what was it like working, with the Duffer Brothers and working on set with, these, these really good actors? Like, what was it like working on
Dude,
the Stranger Things set?
well, first off, when I When I got the set, I was flipping out because I was a huge fan of the show. Uh, and the first thing was I walked in and saw like the chairs we were sitting in, and I was losing my goddamn mind because it says cast.
Yeah.
If you look on my Instagram, you can see it. It says cast, but it's in like the Stranger Things font.
Oh, I love
And
it.
I was just like, dude, look at these fucking chairs. And everyone else is like, yeah, these are our chairs. We're sitting there, I'm like, you can't be that cavalier. Come on. Like, you know how cool this is. Just look
Yeah.
at that. That's super fun. Uh, but I had never seen so many people on a like so many hands working on a set like that. It was hard to tell who was who for the first couple of hours that I was there. Uh, there were more people working on that than there was on the Ron Howard movie. And let me give you an example. At the Ron Howard movie, I'm in a scene in a Radio Shack, right? And the whole front of the building is glass. So uh, they have out front, in case this is caught by the camera, they have people walking on the sidewalk. There's a street going one way this way. There's a median the size of a football field, and then there's the road going in the other direction and another sidewalk. They have people filled in the median walking it along like they're, having a great day at the park. They've got people driving cars both ways. They've got people on the sidewalks. And when he says cut, when Ron Howard said cut inside the Radio Shack, someone else over a loudspeaker cut, and back to one. You just see cars going in reverse and people walking back to the. It was
Oh,
like the
damn.
Truman Show,
I was just about to
and
say that. That's funny.
and that was nothing compared to the amount of people that were on like
Wow.
like. But aside from the fact that they had like an entire like when we were doing that town hall, the entire room was full of extras when we were filming. But even when they were setting things up, like, I mean, the amount of people they had walking around dealing with props, because they had stuff all over the room that you don't even see on camera. Like, they had a whole table full of snacks that were all designed to look like they were snacks from the 80s. They had a bank of cameras in the back that were all supposed to be like, that were legitimately from the 80s that had like
Hmm.
press people there that were like, because it was a press event.
Yeah.
They had like, I mean, the amount of people they had working on lights, because like the lights weren't like just stuff on C stands that were just sitting there. They had like lights running through the ceiling that were hanging down, like they have those removable ceiling panels.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they were running, they were running electric through the ceiling and having lights come down where they've removed like a ceiling panel so they were not obstructing anything in the room but like hanging down like
Ah,
I mean in the scene where I'm walking the dog they had lights hanging from weather balloons
no
I mean it
way.
was I'd never seen anything like that. Apparently I guess that's normal for a project of that size, but like dude, it was crazy the amount of stuff that they had going. And it took me a minute to figure out who was directing it because the whole time I'm like, all right, where are the Duffer Brothers? They're here somewhere, right? I don't quite know what they look like, but they got. Where's the two dudes that are like talking to each other, like, okay, we're gonna do, looking for that. I didn't see them. I didn't realize until probably half hours probably too long into the day, because like the director would say something, someone else yells it, and someone else yells it in another spot of the room. So it's like there's literally so much going on that it's hard to tell who was who.
Yeah.
The director was Sean Levy. Sean Levy was directing my episodes. It wasn't the Duffer Brothers.
Mm.
Uh, and so what happened? I don't know if you've heard what happened. Uh, when I was filming that, uh, I found out the day before. So I auditioned for everything you see uh, that I did in the show. However, when I found out like the day before, excuse me, something's tickling my throat. I found out the day
No worries.
before. I found out the day before that. So there was Angry Townsperson. That's who I auditioned for. They split it into two people. And there was Angry Townsperson 1, who had the bulk of it, and then your Tom's person 2, which is what I booked, and I had one line. And at first I was like, fuck. And then I was like, it was literally half a second. And I was like, you know what? I don't give a shit. Like, I would be an extra. I just want to be there. I just want to see, everything that's going on. I just want to be a part of it. And so I was like, you know what? Who cares? I did all the homework on it. I had all the backstory. I fleshed out my character, and I went to set. And we did. It was one of the few times on a set that we actually did rehearsals. And so we did rehearsals, and I was just screaming at these cops. And Sean came over to me at one point. Well, that was later. He came over to me at one point and was like, hey, man, we're going to be doing this for like 10 hours. Like, save your voice. Like, just calm it down a little bit. And I was like, okay. So we were doing this thing. We're doing rehearsals, and I've had a teacher or two tell me, and I think that's what this lady was doing, where they said, when you're doing rehearsals, you should do it just in rote. Like, you're just saying your lines like this, and there's no emotion behind it, and it's just however it comes out. And she said, basically, save it for camera. And I think this must be what that lady was doing.
Okay.
Because when she tried to start the mob or whatever during rehearsals, she sounded like the mom of a toddler. Like, all right, come on, everybody, we're going. And I watched that, and I was like, man, that's not what I did at all. But I guess that's what they wanted. Like, in my mind, it was like, clearly I didn't do it right because I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And that's what they wanted to hire, was that. But so we did it a bunch of times, and then they sent us to the green room, which is where I saw those chairs and lost my mind. Mind you, this was like, we're filming this in May in Atlanta in 2021 during, like, not quite the height of COVID, but it was up there.
Almost there. Yeah.
And so if you remember, they weren't using, like, they were worried about AC spreading COVID to people. Like, you could be in this part of the restaurant and someone's way over here and they got it, you're gonna get it too because it goes up in the thing.
Yeah.
So they weren't using air conditioning on set.
Damn.
They had a trailer outside that was pumping AC with these huge tubes that came in. These tubes look like, in like movies where they talk about the like the any sort of like outbreak event, where they're walking through those big tubes, sealed up. They had tubes like that were coming into the room next door, pumping in AC. But I mean, with that many lights, and mind you, I'm wearing
Hot
like,
as hell, huh?
dude, I was brewing soup because I had that big denim jacket that, I don't know if you could tell in the show, it's lined with wool, and the wool liner was like that. Like, it was,
Wow.
it was thick. And then I had like a flannel button-up shirt, and then I had the t-shirt I was wearing. I was wearing jeans, big old boots, I had an undershirt on. Like,
I got a question about the clothes. Are they like name brand that they put
they're
you in?
vintage.
Really?
They're all vintage clothes. So they have like a team that just hunts down real vintage clothes, and if there's something they want that they can't find for whatever reason, they make. But the vast majority, I mean, that some of the stuff they end up making are like shoes or boots that they can't find or would be prohibitively expensive to buy. Like, now, like there's people in that space that sell vintage clothing that now know the ladies who are like doing that, and they're like, you got TV money behind you, lady. Like, this shirt is going to be like $200. I was like, I'm not paying $200 for a t-shirt. Like, get out of here with that. So that t-shirt's going on an extra that's going to be there for $5. Like, calm it down. Like,
You don't get to
Millie
keep
Bobby
any of
Brown
this
is not.
stuff.
Yeah, Millie Bobby Brown's not wearing a t-shirt. Like, she's not wearing everything we buy. Like, slow it down.
Exactly.
But
Did you get to meet her, by the way? I know you didn't really
no,
have a scene with her, but
no, I didn't get to meet her. I really wanted to meet Gayton, but I didn't get to meet him. I got to meet, well, sorta. I met Lucas because they filmed a version of the scene with him, apparently. He was
okay.
there, and I
Yeah.
wasn't certain it was him. So we were in a big old room so that everyone could be 6 feet apart. All their chairs could be 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
And it was like, I mean, it looked like it might have been like a library or something. And they took everything out of it. It was a huge room. The room might have been like maybe 50 feet long by like 30 feet or something. It was a big cavernous
Wow.
room that had all these chairs in it. But then, like, a lot of the other cast, like the parents and Erica, had like someplace else they went. I assume they had trailers or something for them somewhere, or just another part of the church we were filming in. But it was like myself, Jason, all the football players, and the ladies who were talking. The lady was with the microphone, and the other lady who I took all of her lines except one. We were all in this one big room, and I guess the cops were placed somewhere else too. But at any rate, I'm sitting there, and somewhere like later in the day, suddenly I see Lucas sitting across
Mm,
the room from me,
okay.
and I'd only seen seasons 1, 2, and 3, and suddenly he's got this,
Yeah. The
flat
bowl
top, big
cut.
old flat.
Yeah.
I'm like kid and play style haircut, and I'm like 50 feet from him, or 40 feet from him. I'm looking at him like, is that him, or is that like a body double, or is that like a new character that's looks like him, or what is happening here? And by the time that I realized it was definitely him, I was like, it would have been awkward if I would, hey man, are you can I say hi?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I didn't bother him.
And especially
But
because of COVID, like going up to someone might have been even, a bad idea. You know what I'm saying?
well, also like I quite often have this chronic cough. I've got asthma and allergies and just bad lungs in general, and so I have this chronic cough on set. I also have like a huge allergy to cigarettes. And the way it starts is like coughs like that, and then it escalates to like me vomiting everywhere. It's a nasty thing. But they're smoking fake cigarettes, and so I'm nervous that I'm like gonna vomit everywhere, and so I'm all concerned about it. But those cigarettes, for whatever reason, didn't affect me like real ones do.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so I'm sitting there coughing, and every so often. And people noticed because, like I said, it was the middle of the pandemic. So
Yeah.
at some point,
Everyone's giving you
uh,
side eyes and shit.
I was getting a lot of that. And then they decided to test everyone for COVID. Like they broke in the middle of the day to test everyone. And people came in like, all right, everybody, just so you know, we're testing everybody for COVID. If you can make certain, they're like, hey,
Adam's
buddy,
going
you
first.
you right here. Did you hear the testing everybody? You should probably go. And I was like, okay, I get it. I know what's happening.
Oh man,
They're
that's
not trying to make it seem like they're singling me out, but they really want to know,
funny.
like,
Yeah,
this guy's been coughing a lot. Is he okay? Like, we're all, we don't want to shut down production because that would be
Uh,
costly. We should.
I got a question about like the physical sets. Um when you were on set, how much of it was green screen compared to actual like physical sets?
Everything was a physical set except for one thing. Uh, the only thing I ever experienced that was a green screen for Stranger Things was the Creel House. So I
Mm,
wasn't I wasn't actually in front of the Creel House, and the reason was is because if you actually go there, the only thing across the street from it is like other businesses and stuff. Like it's like there's like a funeral home, and there's not a real neighborhood across from the real Creel House. So they had taken over this whole neighborhood, and I think they had like paid people not to cut their lawns and made it look like it was a run-down neighborhood.
just a
And
bit.
then
Yeah,
they built that playground
yeah. That
in
she's
like an
climbing
open
on.
field. yeah, they actually built that in this neighborhood. And when we went there to film, like, I mean, it was like some CIA operation stuff. Like, we drove there, and excuse me, they have these trailers that like connect into like the power grid so they can run power to everything. And I mean, it's like the size of like say a horse trailer or like a trailer you would carry like
Hmm.
go-karts or like a lawnmower or like
Yeah.
not quite big enough for like a race car, but like a sizable trailer. And normally they're white and they got lights on them and stuff. This one was painted the type of black that like you could not see. Like if I'd have been driving the van to get us to this location, I would run smack into the thing. I didn't even see it until we were passing it, and I saw the lights on the side. I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
Uh, they had the entire neighborhood. They had a couple of square blocks of this neighborhood taken over, maybe more than I was aware of. Like they had paid people to not be there,
Yeah.
so that
And
no one's watching the filming and stuff.
even in your like, even though that part you didn't have any lines, your part there had a lot of people thinking though.
Well,
Just
so
the way you went, it was
so
menacing.
originally that there were lines in that, and originally it was like me, like yelling at the dog, like "come here," kind of thing, and
Yeah.
tugging on it. And I was worried about the dog. Like I was worried that because the dog doesn't know, you
Yeah.
know, like maybe he's trained to walk with me and whatnot, but like I feel like the dog doesn't completely understand the fact that we're filming and it's all make believe and that I'm not really like yanking on them. And I was worried that I would. What they wanted was for me to have some slack in the leash, so that when I yanked, I wasn't really pulling on the dog. And I thought that's if I do it too loose, it's going to look hokey, and I don't want to actually pull the dog. And so I was just so worried about the dog
Yeah.
that the line wasn't coming out well, and I feel like it's actually more menacing that I say nothing
Ex-
than
it-
if I
it-
than if I said
mhm.
anything anyway. It doesn't matter how good I could say, it doesn't matter, or like call it a piece of shit or whatever. They had a dog picked out that looked like it had been abused. You know what I mean? Like it walked with
Mm,
its tail tucked between its legs and stuff. And I don't know if it was taught to do that or just that's just how it stood or whatever. Uh, but they wanted to make the character seem like that this guy was just a real piece of shit, you
yeah.
know? And so they wanted him to seem real unlikable. And that's totally understandable. That's great. But I couldn't, yank on the dog and say that line because I was just so worried about the dog. So we did it a few times, and then we're like, we're gonna try it without the line. And I was like, all right. And they're like, we'll give you one more chance with the line, but we're gonna do it a couple times without the line. I was like, all right. Like I knew then, I'm like, oh, there's not gonna be a line. I felt bad about it, but then when I saw it, I was like, it's so much more menacing. Like it is so much more
Oh yeah.
frightening, and like it holds a presence that this guy just walks up and looks, and you know who the fuck he is. Like if you
Yeah.
were watching the show at all, you know. And dude, the amount of people that messaged me like that were that were mad, like because I was watching it with my roommate at the time. Like my roommates were Stranger Things fans, and so they wanted to watch it together. And I was like, we got to watch it right when it comes out. And he's like, no, I'm busy. I want to do this other thing. Like a Georgia game was on or something. He wanted to watch that. For whatever reason, he's putting it off. And I started to get tagged and stuff on Reddit, like over and over again with spoilers and stuff. And I was like, oh shit! Like they were talking about I caused the end of the world, and like I killed Max and put everyone in the hospital. 22 people died because of you, and I was like, what the fuck happened? Like, because I didn't. They don't give you the whole script. They only give you what you need to know.
Yeah.
And so the guy that played Jason told me that what I do leads to them coming back. And so that's all I knew. But I didn't know the implication of that. Like I didn't know, until I was watching the show, I didn't really know who Jason was or who Eddie was or any of that. Like,
Mhm.
I just knew that, I had to make a character choice. And, it would make sense that my character wouldn't know all those things. I'm just a guy in the town who doesn't want kids getting fucked up in my town, and the cops aren't doing anything about it. So I'm going to take matters into my own hands.
Yeah,
So
that's crazy,
so
man. And that was such, and like you said, it was such a even though there was no line said in that part, you could just tell what was going through your head. You could
yeah,
see
yeah.
it was such a great part. I also wanted to talk to you about She-Hulk. You had a very really cool part, which I learned afterwards. You had a really cool part in She-Hulk, and when you were
Yeah.
talking to her, can you kind of explain what the whole implications of your part was? Because I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, so I auditioned for a number of different roles in She-Hulk, and that was the one I ended up booking. And like I auditioned for the guy who was the porcupine dude in the self-help group.
Yeah,
And I auditioned for one of the writers she runs into at the end, to like she's trying to meet Kevin, and the guy's like, no one talks to Kevin. I auditioned for
yeah,
those parts. I didn't know they were all the same show because they don't tell you when you audition for stuff like that. It comes through as like untitled Marvel project, or it might even not even say Marvel. It just might be untitled project something. Uh, so you don't know what all is connected. But that one, I think that's a cooler role. And it ended up being I was the guy that served her papers because she was being sued by Titania because of the copyright of her name. And
yeah.
I didn't find out until after it came out the implications of it, which is basically that the whole reason She-Hulk exists is because if you remember the show with Lou Ferrigno in the '80s, it was on like I don't think it was CBS that it was on, and it was super popular. Like
Oh yeah,
everyone watched the show, and CBS wanted to be certain. I think it's CBS. If I'm wrong, please don't sue me, CBS.
yeah. Let
they
us know in
they
the comments if it's CBS one, I guess.
they wanted to be certain that is CBS still around even?
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah.
they wanted to be sure that they're going to sue me for that.
I know.
They weren't mad before. So they wanted to be certain that if any other TV show with the Hulk came out, that they were going to be a part of it. So they started to copyright different iterations of
Oh wow.
Hulk. So like She-Hulk, Boy Hulk, Girl Hulk, all these different things they were trying to just guess what the next Hulk was going to be. Red Hulk, Blue Hulk, etc. And so before they could do that, Marvel just put out a comic with She-Hulk in it. So if you watch, the whole reason that scene exists is because that's how She-Hulk came to be. And if you watch the scene, if you listen, the music in the background is the theme song for the old Hulk TV show.
That's
So it's
awesome.
like a true deep cut.
Oh yeah.
And like fans went crazy for that scene. Which like I mean the amount of times that like crazy stuff has happened that was unforeseeable in my acting career. Like you were talking about the clothing in Stranger Things. It's real vintage clothing, and the T-shirt that I wore in the town hall episode was a real vintage T-shirt from 40 years ago for a high school that still exists
Wow.
today. And someone noticed it, and I went viral. My face in Aiken, South Carolina, wearing this T-shirt uh, for the South Aiken Thoroughbreds, and I didn't know. Like when I went in for wardrobe, I was like, I'm a T-shirt and jeans kind of guy. I love that T-shirt. I know I don't have say in it, but that would be my pick. And then lo and behold, it showed up in my trailer. And next thing I know, they're freaking out about it. They start reselling those T-shirts again. and they sold enough of them to raise, I think. So I ended up going and doing a stand-up comedy show there, and I gave them a couple $1,000s from the proceeds of the show, and then I posted the school's Venmo, and some people sent a couple $1,000s that way, and I think they sold $11,000 worth of T-shirts. So all
Wow.
told, they got like 15,000 or so, and then I sent them another like $1,000 or $1,500. That's the last show I did. So they've raised like 16 or $17,000 at this point from me being a stranger. The school has made more money from me being a stranger things than I did.
That's awesome, man.
That's funny.
But the first comedy show I did there, because I did a comedy show because I wanted to be able to go there and have some stream of money that would cover my expenses from going there. And if I made more, great. But it was like, I mean, it was stressful because like I had to, well, two things. I had to rent the theater. So the theater was a fixed cost, and like trying to negotiate with them to get like a realistic price for this theater was crazy because they're looking at it going, well, this is the guy from TV, so he's got a pile of money. And I had to talk to them to be like, listen, like I can't pay like $4,000 for this theater because if like, people know what the cost of the tickets are, and let's say 200 people show up, and I'm at $20 a ticket, I'm just covering the cost
Yeah,
of the
the cost,
theater, and then I give the school $100, I'm gonna look like an asshole.
yeah.
I can't, like, can we calm it down with the? And they're like, all right, that makes sense, And dude, it was like, I don't. Also, like the lady who I was going back and forth with, small town politics is like a big thing. Uh, so like it was like they had to they don't move fast for anything. And they had to like in order for something to go through, they had to talk to 4 different people and get back to me. It was a crazy thing, but I mean, I've really fallen in love with that town after like I went back there for Halloween, and my buddy has like this house in like one of the more popular neighborhoods for Halloween, and they literally get 1,000 trick-or-treaters coming through there,
Damn.
like knocking on the door. He had a cooler, like a big, full-size, giant cooler that we filled to the brim with candy,
Wow.
and we ran out and had to tell some kids, "I'm sorry, we don't have it." I brought like, I think it was like 200 full-size candy bars. It was over 100 full-size candy bars. Those were gone in like 40 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe. It was
That's
like
crazy. Didn't I remember you I watched the video. It was something along the lines of the shirts that were sold, you guys had a split or something with the actual with
no.
it.
So I and we
That's what you were saying.
I ended up getting the key to the city from the mayor
That's
for
awesome.
raising like $15,000 or $16,000 for the school. I think by the time we finished the first show, it's $15,000. So before the show happened, not Stranger Things, but my comedy show.
Yeah, the comedy show, yeah.
The guy who printed the T-shirt 40 years ago, like sent like a cease and desist letter to the people who are printing it now and to the school to say he owned the rights to the shirt and they can't print it anymore, something like that. And so they had to stop selling them, and then he agreed to let them sell the ones they had left over. So that I went to the school and did like a meet and greet where they sold like the other 200 shirts or whatever they had. The principal was like, he's like, I didn't think this many people would come. Like it was supposed to start at 6. I got there at 5:30, and the moment I walked through the door, people were like taking photos of me and stuff. They walked me over to this thing, brought me a pin, a line formed, and I was signing autographs and taking photos until like 9:30 at night.
Wow.
Like it never stopped. They were playing like the episode in the other room. Like the news came out and interviewed me. I signed a baby and I signed a puppy. Like it was crazy.
Man.
Uh,
That's
it was. I mean, someone came from like some other state. I think it was like Michigan or something to come there because they heard someone from Stranger Things was going to be there signing an autograph. And
Crazy.
I feel
now,
like they might have been disappointed that I wasn't Millie Bobby Brown, but
now working in a Marvel kind of project and a Stranger Things kind of project, is there like more between the two? Is there like a secrecy more behind Marvel, or is there like what's the difference between working
I
in like a Marvel film compared
I
to
think
another kind of film?
I think that they're pretty equal in their secrecy things. So like they uh they have these things called sides, and so like this is this is sides from a different project that like an audition I had. This is like a portion of the script, and like you don't need that part, so it's xed out, and like it's like the portion of the script you're working on,
Yeah,
you know. And so on set they give them to you, and they're half size, so like they're printed out on like half a sheet of paper, but it's like you know
gotcha.
like
Okay,
it's
yeah.
printed long ways. It looks adorable, you know. It looks like a miniature little script, and I try to keep them from every thing I do because they're cool looking. I got a little box where I keep them in. You know, I have the like first one I ever did from from everything I did. And the only one I gave away was the first Marvel show I did. There was a guy I knew who uh, was huge into Marvel, and he actually was like the head of the. I had to have my car repainted because like a tree limb fell on it, and he had taken care of me, and I knew his whole office was full of Marvel shit, and he didn't know I did that kind of stuff, and so I brought him that and gave it to him. He lost his mind. He was like,
Oh my
what?
god.
From an
Yeah.
actual.
That's
I mean,
awesome.
this is before Marvel was what it is now. And I brought him my shooting script from that, and he lost his shit. Um,
Do you see the
and
difference in like production, like when you're on the Strange Things versus Marvel? Like, did you notice when you watch like a Marvel
yeah,
show, they dump
yeah.
like $200,000 into it? Do you notice
So
that difference, or 200 million?
let,
Excuse me.
let, let me finish the one thing first. But
Yeah, of course.
yes, I'll explain. So they have those sides. When I was leaving the first day filming from Stranger Things, I'm sitting there holding my sides, and during COVID, you didn't really sign out from places. Uh, so I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to sign out or not. And so I knocked on like the head trailer, and they're like, "We're so glad you showed up. We just got word to come back for another episode. These are the tentative dates. We're probably gonna have you back. Is that your script? I'll take that." And they like snatched it right out of
Oh,
my hand, and I was like, "Well, I don't get to keep it." They're like, "Oh no, we burn them. Like no one gets them." And I
Damn.
was like, "Ah." Oh, I had a friend of mine who was on a Marvel show. She was on a couple episodes of the one WandaVision.
Wonder.
she
Ooh.
was she was my friend. Her name was Rachel Thompson. She was one of the military people, and she's in a couple episodes of that. And when she left set, she had taken her sides, and they went in her trailer looking for them, and they called her. Be like, "Hey, did you leave with her sides?" And she's like, "Oh, I guess I did." And they're like, "You need to turn around and bring it back." She's like, "I'm in
wow.
Florida." Like she had filmed it in Georgia and was on the way back. They're like, "Well, then you need to destroy him." She was like, "Okay, all right, I'm sorry." Like she's like, "I
Wow.
just keep for like a keepsake." And they're like, "No. You either bring him back or you need to send us a picture of them destroyed."
Destroyed.
So so like they are all very very serious about that. As far as like the you know uh, the difference in like budgets or whatever, I think the only true big difference I would say is for Stranger Things, every single thing that they do is on a real location, and that's very expensive to do.
Yeah.
Like She-Hulk, we actually did that on a soundstage. Same with Cobra Kai. They built those apartment complexes on that. They look super real.
Oh yeah.
But like the one for Cobra Kai, if you like when I come out of that apartment, if you to step like 3 feet back, it's the middle of nothing. There's barrels filled with water to wait to hold up the sides of the thing. Like it's all a facade. That
Yeah.
that door was like an interior door. I couldn't slam it hard. Like I wanted to just like when he yelled at me, step back and wham, but there's no way it wouldn't have held up. Like I'm
And
surprised they were
it's
able to
weird. It's weird when they were fighting after you had came out of the
get on the
apartment.
balconies and stuff.
Yeah, it was weird because when you came out, it looked like they went through your initial apartment door when because they were fighting from the ground level, and then they went up the stairs and they ended up on the balcony. It looked like they busted through your door, so I was waiting for you to be like, "What the hell are you doing?" But I guess they were in like the stairway of whatever
Yeah,
wherever they were filming.
they had a stairwell. Like I saw they were building. They told me they were going to be fighting on the balcony, and I was like, "Can that balcony hold people?"
Wow.
And they're like, "Yeah, we think so." Because they were building. One of the stunt guys was building like a stack of boxes for him to fall on because I guess one of them comes off the balcony or whatever. Uh, I haven't seen that season yet, but I know that they fight on the balcony and like someone gets kicked off or something. Um, or for whatever reason he jumps because they were building the boxes for him to fall onto. And I remember him taping up these boxes, and I was like, "Is that like you don't use like an air thing,
Yeah.
cardboard boxes?" He's like, honestly, these are more comfortable. And I was like, really? Because you would think like the spine on one of the edges of those boxes has got to be real fucking stiff.
Yep.
Yeah,
Like
that's
you would
weird.
think that would, you know what I mean? Like you think about a stack of boxes, you feel like there's going to be little points that are going to be stiffer than the others. You know what I mean? And he was like, "No, no, I love this is what I prefer." And I'm like, "All right."
That's
Do you
strange.
do you ever my bad, real quick, Ken, do you ever when you have a scene with someone and you know later on in their career you're like, oh, I actually had a scene with this guy, like the dude Zolo from he was played, or the scene you did in Cobra Kai,
Mm-hmm.
I believe his name is Zolo something. He was the like
Oh
the
yeah,
he ended up being Blue
the
Beetle.
yeah. We spent all day together.
That's
Like
awesome,
it
man.
was him and the blonde kid and who the blonde kid like that dude was like, I mean, good looking kid. Like it was a little weird looking at it because like you no one
Like,
you,
you're too handsome, buddy.
yeah, you're way too like this is, I
It was
feel like I'm
every
just gonna
football
I
football
feel
player
like I'm just
fan.
gonna be staring at the like I was like but the guy that played Johnny
Yeah.
and I really hit it off. And like they put me on hold for another episode. They were going to bring me back, and I feel like the only reason they didn't was because they probably had to go back and watch the dailies, and there probably had to have been several takes where they're like, "We can't use that because this guy is just standing there smiling, grinning like an asshole this the whole time. Like this is so cool.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be. Is the camera on me? Is it not? Okay. Look at that. Oh my god. You know,
Did
like
you get
they
to
had
watch the whole fight scene?
no, they let me go before the fight scene happened, but I was there like
Uh,
I got to see them film a couple other things because like I got there and he was talking to they they they, they have this huge warehouse. Like it's not a lot of shows uh buy out warehouse spaces
Hmm.
to build sets in, and this one is like it's in a neighborhood. Like there's where the like where the facade is for their apartment complex is right on the other side of like a gate, and then there's like a big road, and like there's houses that if you were if you got on their roofs or something, you could look in and be like, oh yeah, they're filming Cobra Kai right there. Like I mean, it's like it's so close to neighborhoods and stuff that people would be very surprised. Uh, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like the people in the neighborhood know what happens there.
Yeah,
because
that's fair.
it's just so much of it going on. I mean, it's I don't know. It seems like when I did the Miss Pat show, that was also in like it was a warehouse district where you're driving in there and there's just semi trucks driving everywhere, like trying to deliver stuff and whatnot. And you're like, is this where I'm supposed to be? Like the first time I went to one of those, uh, I was auditioning for a Melissa McCarthy movie, and I think it was called Super Intelligence, and I guess she has her own studio there. So I went there and it's like you're walking down the hallway and it's just like poster after poster after poster of like Melissa McCarthy movies. And you're like, oh shit. Well, I guess we know who's in charge here. And they had like I saw the biggest room I had ever seen, and it was like there was this massive, massive warehouse room. They put me in like I was waiting for my turn to audition, and they had put me in this conference room that had a window in it to look out into this big old space. And they had built like a neighborhood, like with these
Wow.
houses and stuff. And a guy, I assume he was some sort of grip or someone working on it. He was riding his bike through it to try to get from one side to the other because it was that fucking big. And it was
Holy
just, I was
shit.
looking at that going, what the fuck? Like, this is crazy. It must have been, I mean, it looked like the type, like when you're inside of a football stadium. Like, it was just that large of a space. And I didn't realize that outside of like stadiums and stuff, that rooms that big existed, other than like at NASA, you know, where they have that
Yeah.
room that's so tall that it has its own atmosphere, like clouds form and it rains inside because it's so big.
Yeah.
Wasn't quite that big, but like I mean, it was a big fucking space. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, so some of those are like they're in warehouses, like they're not all at like studios and stuff. Um, but so yeah, like some of them they build sets, like they when they keep reusing the apartment complex at for Cobra Kai, they build it there because it's expensive and it's difficult to shoot something like that over and over again on a
Mhm.
location.
That makes sense.
So when they, especially when you're talking about crowds building up, or like trying to get people to stop watching or
Yeah.
filming or something like that, that's one of the problems that Stranger Things was happening in season four. I have a buddy of mine who was like, he was always like he's an extra, but he's a police officer, and they have him for continuity. He's always with the police officer. So even though he's an extra, they keep using him over and over again to be one of the police officers, just walking around in the background, like setting up crime scenes, all that stuff. And he was telling me like when they were shooting like there's a place in Georgia where they always do the town hall, like the not the town hall, but the town square, like the downtown Hawkins, where the library and all that stuff is. It's a real place in Georgia, and when they were filming there, like paparazzi were coming by on like motorcycles and driving by and filming and taking photos and like zooming off before anyone could stop them. So they were having trouble like stopping people from doing that kind of stuff, or preventing them from leaking out stuff they didn't want leaked. So I've heard I've heard that they built part of that. That same buddy told me that he's heard that they built part of that on like a sound stage. Because I assume either they're gonna do big stunts and they don't want that caught, or they're trying to cut down on like just outside influences that slow down production and cause
Right.
problems and stuff. Because
That makes
even if the dude on the motorcycle isn't like if they're not even if they're not worried about him taking photos and stuff, the sound,
Yeah,
it's like all right, well that whole shot is tanked,
exactly.
That makes sense. So during your time, um, like filming and or being on different projects, who was your favorite celebrity you met, and then who was the worst, if you can name them?
Uh,
Like who got you starstruck?
Honestly, I don't know that there was anyone. Uh, I don't know that I've met an actor quite yet that I've been starstruck by. I've been starstruck by comedians.
Mhm.
Like when I met Bill Burr, that
Oh,
was that
that's
was a real starstruck moment. I think I might have had a moment when I met Ron Howard, where I was like, "Holy shit, that's Ron Howard!" And
Wow.
then he walked up and just said hi, and he's got the most calming voice. Like even the ladies in wardrobe told me like they can hear him talking from like a mile away, and it just soothes everybody. There's something about that dude's voice that I've never noticed from seeing his interviews and stuff, but like in person, that guy has such a calming voice. I don't know. He came over and said hi, and like immediately, and I'm certain it had to be all over my face. Like, holy shit, it's fucking Ron Howard. And then he came over like, oh my god, I didn't know we're gonna do this over here, and just like
sweetest
his
ever.
his demeanor and just everything about him, just I don't know, just instantly calming. I think I don't know that anyone has ever. I haven't had a moment where uh, anyone has ever like a famous person has been nasty to me. I've had like PAs treat me like shit. Like when I was first starting out, I haven't had like it seems like the last thing I did.
Which is a good thing, by the way. That I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
you get these good actors that actually treat you like a normal human being. That's actually a
Yeah,
good sign.
everyone has been. Well, I think what it is like the only people I've ever met who have been kind of
Steve Young.
shitty have been like that have been famous have been people who like were always famous. Like they're were you know they just have a sense of entitlement because they've always been that way.
Yeah.
But I think people who have fought their way up
Understand
and
it. They get it.
dug in the trenches, yeah, they get it. But I mean, I had stuff like the when I did that Marvel show, uh, and I showed up there, like this person assumed I was an extra, and I couldn't tell them. Like they're like, "No, shut, come on, let's go!" Like wouldn't listen to me, and I was like, "All right, I guess this might be the place I'm supposed to go." And they took me into this holding area, and I was like, "This isn't. Are we all gonna share this? Okay, all right, I guess we're all gonna share. There's a lot of people here. All right." Uh, and she was annoyed with me because she couldn't find me on her list. I wasn't on her list, and so she was like, "Just go step over there for just."
God.
And she's like, "Do you have any idea who you were supposed to be in this or whatever?" And I was like, I was supposed to be a construction worker." And she was like, "Well, I don't see you anywhere on my fucking list." And I was like, "Hold on." And I pulled up my call sheet and I showed it to her, and she was like, "How do you have this?" And I was like, "Because casting sent it to me." And she was like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry. You're first team," which is the first time I had heard the term first team. Uh, which it means that you're a part of the cast. That you're speaking lines and whatever. And like, I immediately got whisked away, and I got my tiny little trailer, and they're like, "We can make you whatever you want for breakfast." I'm so sorry for all that. And I was like, "I don't. I mean, it's fine. Like,
I want
no
you to
big
go make
deal."
my breakfast.
Yeah, yeah, no big. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't immediately assume that someone behaving like that is doing it because they have malice towards me. I
Oh yeah,
assume
that's
they're
fair.
stressed and they got a lot of stuff going on. They're just trying to figure shit out. And
Yeah, that's fair.
you
That's a
know,
fair assumption.
so I didn't immediately take that. The only thing that I was like was and I totally get that dude's what he did was when I was doing the Ron Howard thing. uh, we had finished filming and we were all sitting in this like they had shut down the whole block, if not more, and they had taken over all the businesses and everything. And we were sitting at a nearby business, which was like it was like an art gallery or something. They had taken over for like just a place to chill. And Ron Howard was sitting there talking with the kid who starred in that film, who, by the way, funny enough, I think he knew that Ron Howard was a big deal, but I don't think he actually knew who Ron Howard
It
was,
was.
because at one point he called him Rob, and Ron like corrected him, and you could see this micro expression on him that was like he died a little inside. And I was like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Ron was so nice, but I was like, actually, it's Ron, and he was like, because he was like the kid, wanted to get attaboys, and so which who wouldn't from fucking Ron Howard?
But Ron Howard is so iconic, though. Like, how could
Dude.
you mess that up, dude?
Well, the kid's like fucking 10 or something. Like,
Yeah, I know,
he didn't watch Apollo 13. Like, he didn't,
Ugh.
he didn't watch him when he was a kid. Like, he shouldn't be held with those kinds of expectations, which I'm certain Ron is fine
That's
with.
true. That's true.
But so we're sitting in this room, and I asked, like, Ron Howard walks by me, go to the bathroom, and I was like, holy fuck, that's Ron Howard. And, like, it had to be all over my face. And so I went over to Ron's assistant, and I was like, hey, man, is it okay if I get a photo with Ron? Like, if it's not, no big deal. I don't want to cause a problem. And he's like, oh, no, I think we can make that happen. Yeah, thank you for coming to me. And most people just go directly to him, but, thank you for coming to me. And I was like, yeah, that's sure thing, man. And I went sat back down, and I watched that guy walk out of where we were sitting, which was a glass door. He walked right out in front of it and was like, into his walkie. Next thing I know, my handler's running in the room like, we got a van for you right now. If you want to step outside, we're going to take you back to, if you just want to come with me right now, we're going to take you right back to the other part of the set. And I was like, okay, all right, I know.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have asked. And
Yeah.
so I go back to the hotel. Mind you, we're filming this. It was in Macon, Georgia. There's only one hotel, so we're all staying at the same hotel. And I went out to like a bar that night or the night before, and the other bar people were like, so what are you doing in town? And I was like, work. I'm like, what do you do? I'm like, just stuff. I'm a comedian. I think like, oh, okay, all right. You're part of the Ron Howard movie with Glenn Close and Amy Adams. I was like, how the fuck do you know? What's like small town, man? We know everything's going on. I was like, all right, okay.
That's crazy.
So I come back home from dinner, and I hit the button for the elevator, and the elevator comes down, opens, and who should be standing there but the assistant that I'd asked about taking a photo, and he's like, I was like, hey man, I wasn't trying to cause a problem. If it was an issue, I would have been totally fine with you being like, hey, not now. He's got a. I was like, you didn't have to, ready for
Kick
me
you
to
out.
leave or whatever. He's like, oh no, I didn't do that. Like, if you'd have waited like another 5 minutes, we totally could have made that happen. I was like, all right, yeah, whatever, man. Like, I'm certain that there are people that they deal with who would have caused a scene, but what do you mean I can't take a fucking picture? Geez, think he's a big time?
Yeah.
I understand that his time is probably very precious, and everyone probably wants to get a photo of him all the time, and if they let that happen, it'll slow down production. I get that. I just thought that I had chosen a time when clearly nothing was going on.
Yeah.
But I have never since asked for a picture with anybody, and I never would again. Like, that one experience, like, I'd been told before not to, from like acting teachers and stuff, and then I was like, it seems like nothing's going on. We're all just kind of hanging out in this room. Like, if ever was a time, it feels like it'd be this, and it was not the fucking time. Like,
That's crazy.
But I mean,
Yeah.
thankfully that I learned that, at that point in my career, not like,
Yeah.
later on, or they didn't let me keep doing that, and they're like, oh, it's the guy that asks for the fucking photos all the time.
It's this guy.
This fucking guy back on set. You know what I mean? I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
One more question from me. What is your favorite genre movie? And have you thought about going into something that you're not comfortable with? Like, say you want to do like horror, but like deep horror.
You know what's funny? the thing that I was not truly very comfortable doing is the thing that I do most often, which is when I first started out, I never thought that I was good at displaying anger and being like the guy that's screaming and upset. Because I grew up in a very tumultuous household. Like, uh, I've got a crazy family, and in my experience as a kid, whenever there was that sort of screaming or whatnot, violence was soon to come. And so I was always like the peacekeeper. I was trying to put out fires, and I kind of felt like I don't know. I don't know if early on I just didn't trust myself to have those emotions, or if I was scared of them, or what. It took a while for me to actually break into those, and it wasn't until the Ron Howard movie where I screamed at a kid that like, "Hey, he's our screamy guy. He can scream at kids. This is great." And then came Stranger Things and Lyle Lyle Crocodile and some other things that you know. It's just that I suddenly became I could be the heavy for all these people,
Yeah.
and I never looked at myself in that way. Uh, I would love to do more comedy.
Hmm.
Uh, I feel like I'm kind of in. Um, God, I can't think of the guy's name. I'm terrible with names. I don't know if we've covered this. There's a famous comedian. He's not famous for being a comedian. He's famous for his drama roles. He was in The Usual Suspects, and he was originally going to. I like he does impressions and stuff. He's one of the main guys in The Usual Suspects, and like I mean, he's had Tonight Show appearances and stuff since then, and he's had specials like doing impersonations and stuff. But
Kevin Pollock.
like, yeah, Kevin Pollak, he can't do comedy because his agents and managers are like, no one sees you like that. They see you as this guy. And
Yeah.
so he's like, but I've been doing stand up for a long time. And like, yeah, no, you're the serious you know uh
He's always like
mobster guy.
he's always like a I don't know, I always feel like he's someone like you go into a bank or always like a head of a CIA kind of like one of those kind of things.
Yeah.
How I kind of
He's
see
kind
him.
of yeah. Well, I mean, ever since Usual Suspects, because that was such a big movie. I don't think they
Yeah.
expected the movie to be that big. Uh, he's always like in my mind been like a mobster or a gangster or
Yeah, yeah,
something. You know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Like it was so weird. Even knowing, even having done stand up and coming up, and having my own trajectory and path, like seeing him put out a special and watching it was like, this is so weird. You know what I mean? Just like,
Exactly.
you know, like there was a movie called That Guy from That Thing. That was like a documentary about these actors who you've probably seen them in a bunch of stuff, but don't quite know their names. Like, oh, that dude again, you know. And there's one. It was one of the guys from Aliens, and I guess he had done something, another movie or something where he played like a real nasty character, or like a rapist or a murderer or something like that. And he was well known for that part. He was saying he was in the hospital because he just had a kid. He was leaving. He was in the elevator with like his wife holding the kid, and this lady walked into the elevator and saw him. Went, "Oh, it's you!" And looks down. And they let you have a kid. And he's like, "Lady, I'm an actor. Like, calm down." But
That's funny.
I've come to find like the amount of times I've had people be like when they interact with me on Reddit or stuff, they're like, "You're a surprisingly nice guy. Like, your character can eat a bag of dicks, but you seem like a cool dude." Like, it's like, yeah, man, like that. Like people are surprised by it. And it's like that's why, like, it's so when I was filming Lyle Lyle Crocodile, uh, in that movie, I played like this nasty guy who like robs the kid. They filmed it a couple of times where I had a knife, like a big ass nasty knife, and they're like, I feel like this guy is putting the knife real close to the kid. And we really like, hey man, can you not put the knife so close to the kid? And I'm like, no, maybe on camera it looks like it's real close, but it's not. It's okay. Uh, and then there's times like that where I feel like I go, what have you experienced on set?
Right.
Like, how dumb are these people that, and they must be, like, I'm not going to put the fucking pointy end of the thing near the
That's
guy's eyeball.
funny.
Like, calm down.
Like you're some psycho or something.
Yeah, like, but at any rate, so I'm in the blooper reels from that movie because we did the scene a couple of times, and then the kid and I and the guy who's like dressed like the crocodile are sitting in the room and we're talking for hours, and I'm shooting the shit with the kid, and he realizes I'm not this big scary dude, like I'm just a big teddy bear. And so we go to do the scene again, and I walk up to him and be like, hey, give me that phone, kind of thing. And the kid just starts laughing at me. And I'm like, what? And the director's like, what's going on? I'm like, he's fucking laughing at me. Like, they're like, hey, don't do that. I'm like,
That's
he's
funny.
laughing at me. Like, because he couldn't see me as that guy anymore. Because we spent hours just chit-chatting and shooting the shit.
That's funny.
I love how your name in that movie is just low life. Like that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was. That's what I was telling my agents recently, because I just did something that has like a like when I booked it, it had some innocuous name like that. Like, think about Angry Townsperson number 2 is my name in Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like a very forgettable character, but anyone who watched, like if you look through my IMDb and you read some of the character names, you're like, oh, he didn't do shit in it. But if you actually watch the show, it's like, the fuck, like such a pivotal part in all of these things. Like it's the low life. It's the only scary part in the entire movie. Like it's your introduction to the crocodile.
Yeah, exactly.
But I booked something that has another innocuous name, and it turns out to be like this crazy, awesome scene in this project. And I messaged my agents, and I was like, I think I have a knack for like booking these roles that sound like they're nothing burgers and turn into like these crazy cool scenes and characters and stuff. Like, who would have thought that this would turn, like, when I booked Angry Townsperson number 2, who would have thought that would lead to me getting a key to a city and flying to Germany and seeing my face on a T-shirt? Like, in what world?
Awesome. That's awesome, man. And watching those, I learned, or I saw you on TikTok when I first saw you. It was on TikTok,
Mm-hmm.
and then it not only did I see you on screen, not maybe like a day or two after, like I knew, I was like, I actually saw this guy on TikTok. This is crazy. And it just kept coming up. I loved Cobra Kai. I watched She-Hulk, and Stranger Things is one of my favorite TV shows. So I knew who you were. So I was like, this is awesome. So, and then I was watching your lives, and you're a really cool guy to interact with on your TikTok lives. I knew from the jump we would just hit it off. Just you're just a cool guy to talk to, and you could see that on screen too. Yeah, man.
Well, the funny thing is, like, most of a lot of the characters I play, it seems like it's the antithesis of that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I had an ex-girlfriend tell me that when she saw me, I think she was watching Hillbilly Elegy when I scream at the kid. She said she just started laughing. I was like, that's not him. That guy wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Like, it completely took her out of it because she knows me for real, and she's like, yeah,
that's funny.
Do you have anything you can say just real quick to people out there that are inspiring to be actors, actresses, and Just what do you have to say to them?
Oh, I mean, as far as what, like to root them
Like
on, or how to get started, or
No, not to start. Just like if, like in general, like do you
like
follow your
encouragement.
dreams?
Yeah.
Yeah, like is that something you believe in, or do you think it's just falling into place? Like, what is your thoughts?
I mean, it's hard. I don't know. I feel like it's a lot of like, I don't
'Cause
know,
I
like
feel like I don't want to tell
it's
someone to do something like go to Hollywood, drop all your shit, and stand out front of a
no.
building.
So no, I've told a lot of people, and I feel like a lot of people go to LA or New York, and I feel like Atlanta was a better choice for me
Mhm.
because and I didn't. Maybe it was the timing, but it was so much easier to build a resume because uh, there was such little competition. Number one, but also because for a long period of time they weren't booking, especially because of COVID. They weren't booking co-stars and stuff unless they were local.
Mm.
So there's far less actors in Atlanta than there are in LA and New York, which means that there's far less competition just at the audition level. Like in the people I know in California, uh, like they maybe get an audition once every couple of weeks, maybe, you know. And in Atlanta, there's some weeks I have nine.
Wow.
You know,
Damn.
like it's constant of just auditions coming. When I was in when I went to Germany, I was doing one every night, if not two or three. Like I think I did probably maybe 5 or 6 auditions while I was in Germany for 3 days or however long it was. It was crazy, and
That's
I
awesome.
had to. It was difficult because I had like you have to get a reader, and so I'm trying to work the time change of like finding someone. Like I'm doing it at like 11 at night my time, but it's like 6 in the afternoon or 6 in the evening, but that's when someone's available because then they're off work and can do it. It's just like like I I felt weird about asking the other actors that were there to come read for me because then they have to come into my hotel room and then I feel like that's awkward.
Yeah.
Uh, but I don't know. I was you know I feel like Atlanta has been better for me as far as like building my resume, and that led to me getting uh, an agent in Los Angeles and a manager out there, and it's gotten me like I know.
And that makes a lot of sense though, because it's like people like you hear like he just mentioned people drop everything they have and they move to LA and they expect to get these big parts, but it's like you're competing with literally millions of people that in LA, like you're going to be
Yeah,
competing with these people. But if you go to somewhere like you did, Atlanta, you're not competing with it. Like not many people go to Atlanta
well,
for acting. Like
well, the
it's
other
not.
there's a lot now, but like at the time there wasn't. I mean, there's some things that are more difficult for some people because like let's say you're a hot chick. There's a lot more hot chicks that are trying to be uh actors and actresses than there are dudes with long hair and a beard.
Uh-huh.
So there's a there's more now, but when I first started, there weren't a lot. So that's a narrower window. And then how many of the dudes with long hair and a beard are well trained, and how
Yeah.
many of them have a good resume? Except like it
Makes sense.
when I first started, there was a lady that kicked me out of her office because she said I looked too weird. And now people are looking at like I have a unique look, and when they need the long haired dude with glasses, whether
The
they
420
want me,
blaze it.
yeah, whether they want me to be the stoner or the scientist or the redneck. I'm getting a lot of redneck now.
Yeah, that's in.
Apparently,
You're redneck's in right now. You're good.
apparently they look at me and go, he's a little insurrection-y. Like I feel like on January
I look
6th,
like
we know
that
where that
guy
guy
could wear a
was.
flannel.
Yeah,
That's
get
funny.
a red hat on this guy. We think we know, like he can fit the bill. Funny
That's
enough,
funny.
the breakdown for that role on Stranger Things said something like that. They wanted like a I can look through my emails and find it, but it was something along those lines that they wanted someone that looked like he was a little insurrection-y.
That's funny. Before we get out of here, we usually ask a couple, miscellaneous questions.
Sure.
So we've had this big debate since we started. Not, I shouldn't say debate because we agree on it, but we've had these questions that we always ask our guests when they come on. First question being, does pineapple belong on pizza?
Man, I'm of the opinion that if you like it, who gives a shit? Like I'm in a whiskey group, and they say the number one rule is whiskey is meant to be drunk however you like it, however you enjoy it, and the rest doesn't matter because you're the one eating it.
Yeah,
Like why
exactly.
should my pizza preference change anything about your pizza preference? Like who gives a shit?
I like that. I like
That's
the
a win.
answer.
That's a win for me.
I know, right? The other one, if you won the lottery, everything's like from 3 generations past you is going to be taken care of. You don't have to worry about houses, cars,
Oh, I thought you were talking about me
and
actually winning the lottery.
that's what I'm saying. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. You did win the lottery. I saw
Yeah.
I saw your thing on that.
You won the you won the fucking lottery.
I won $1,000
That's a
in the
win.
lottery. It's enough where I had to go to the office and claim it.
Yeah.
They
And
taxed the shit out of that.
dude, so here's the crazy thing. So when I got to the lottery office, it's not like you'd expect. Like I'm walking in, I'm all happy. I'm taking a picture of myself, like it's the fucking lottery. Look at it. I walk in there, it's just like the DMV. You
Yep.
gotta take a ticket to like get one of those crappy seats. Everyone's miserable in there. There's a lady yelling at everybody. I told you to fill out your forms right. Didn't you read the god? Fill out your forms right. I don't want to tell everybody who comes back up. Like I'm like, going, what is happening? I mean, am I in a Twilight Zone? Why is no one happy? Everyone coming through that door is getting at least $600. You have to win at least $600 before you, and all the prizes tend to go from like 500 straight to 1,000. So everyone coming to that door is getting a minimum of 1,000 probably.
Yeah.
The guy sitting next to me is getting 20 grand, and
Wow.
he was like, a dude walked in there at one point and was like, looked at everybody and goes, "Is this worth it?" And I was like, "I guess it depends on how much your time is worth. Like, how much should you win?" And he's like, $1,000, and I was like, "Is $1,000 worth 2 hours of your time?" You know? He's like,
Yeah.
I guess when you put it like that, all right. You know, are you that upset about winning it? Like you thought you were just gonna walk in and walk it right out with $1,000? Like,
Yeah.
like
And they weren't about to pay you either, huh?
yeah. So that's the other thing that happened. So, I during the pandemic, I went from having like 4 jobs to none overnight.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like I couldn't do acting. That all shut down. Couldn't do stand up comedy. That all shut down. I did radio gigs where I acted on the radio. That all ended. Like there was everything I did stopped overnight. And so it's the first time in my life that I got on unemployment. And so I think what happened was there was a specific time during my unemployment where I got a a residual check for the Gifted. So the Gifted was in like 2016, right? And so we're talking now we're in like this was either early 2021 or late 2020. So 4 years later, going on 5 years later, I get a residual check for like $30. And they reached out to me and were like, you have income that you're not telling us about. I'm like, it was like $30. I figured you guys wouldn't care. I'm like, you're supposed to tell us about every penny you got. And you didn't tell us about this. We think we're going to kick you off. I'm like, for $30, I'm like, you have income now. I'm like, this isn't consistent. Like, I didn't even know this was going to come.
Yeah, exactly.
It might not come again for another year or two. Like, I don't know when this is going to come again. And so they had decided that I shouldn't have gotten paid that week. And so it was an overpayment of like they deemed the so when I went to turn in the lottery ticket, they told me that I couldn't collect it because I was on unemployment and they, needed to look into it. They said it was going to take 4 to 6 weeks, and they were going to get back to me. That was in September. I got the check for that like a week ago.
Wow.
It took like
Holy
4 months for them to finally pay me. And this, like, I got like these glasses.
yeah,
That's-
Hell yeah.
that's so crazy, man.
dude, it was like so I shouldn't be surprised, but Florida very much so. Like it's not to get all political, but they don't want to have unemployment. And so during the pandemic, it came out that they had purposely set up the unemployment system in the state to not function. Like the phone number you call kicks you off, the website doesn't work. And so when all these people tried to get on unemployment, it was the only state in the union whose unemployment like account was going up because companies were still paying in for the unemployment insurance, but no one could collect. And it was like that for a couple of months. So it shouldn't be surprising to find out. I think last I heard, when this first happened, I looked into it. It was like 15,000 people had won the lottery and could not collect. Like there
Wow.
was old ladies that were being interviewed that they couldn't because they were on unemployment during or food stamps or something. Like there were all these people who like had won the lottery, which are probably mostly poor people playing the lottery or whatever. Like I did it during the fucking strike. Like I was like, let's see what happens.
Yeah,
And
that's crazy, man.
I happened to win. They're like, nah, we're not paying you. I was like, so I shouldn't be surprised that the state that tried to make their unemployment unusable is then trying to,
Withholding it.
withhold lottery winners. Like we can pay ourselves back with this. Like
That's crazy.
dude, it was bizarre.
So the last question, we this is a big debate because we agree on this one, but a lot of people kind of.
Oh, you started to ask me a lottery question. I didn't.
Oh yes, the lottery question was: so if you had won the lottery, you don't have to worry about houses for the rest of your life, cars, your family, and 3 generations past you is set for life, so you don't have to.
So we're talking
invest
like
or nothing.
600 million or something.
Yeah, something nuts. What's the one thing you would buy with that money? And like I said, you don't have to invest it or nothing like that. Like you don't have to worry about that.
Something you always wanted that you just never got.
Oh man! So something for me, or something that I would do for other people, or
For you. This is
for you.
this is your breakdown of your life. Like you worked your ass off, you happen to hit this lotto, and this is
Like
what you want. I mean, it could be like a
one
PSA
thing?
10 graded Charizard from 1995.
Yeah,
dude, I would get like there's a shop out there called the Roadster Shop, and they build the most badass cars ever. And I would have them build a 1970 Chevelle. Like
Ooh.
it would take a while, but like if you look at their stuff, they build some stuff like they'll make the thing look like it came away from the factory, but when you get closer, you're like, oh man, they did a boatload of work to get it to look like this. Like shaving stuff or like things that were plastic, they'll go through and remake into metal, and like they'll make like turbo kits to put on cars that look like they came in like the 57 Chevy from the factory. Like they do some amazing stuff. Like if you have an opportunity,
I'll
look
take
up, but their builds are like 300 grand and up. Like it's like you'd have to win the lottery to get like something like that. Like
that's awesome. That's a
a
good one.
$300,000 car. Like I mean, I guess a lot of cars are like that. Like Porsches and Lamborghinis and Ferraris. Like I mean, when we were young, you'd think 100 grand was like the most expensive car. A Countach. It's like 100 grand.
Yeah.
Now the Corvette's 100 grand.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
There's
cars that are millions of dollars.
Yeah, I like that answer. So last question: do you think boneless chicken wings are? Do you think they're chicken wings, or do you think they're like chicken nuggets, chicken poppers?
Man, I don't really know that I have an answer for this because I have wondered this same thing. Like the only difference to me between boneless wings and nuggets, typically, is that it's not separated and put back together again. So there's there's
Yes.
stringiness to it. But
Yeah.
when you look at Chick-fil-A's nuggets, they're like that. So
Yeah.
it's like 9 times out of 10, it would definitely not be nuggets. But then when you look at Chick-fil-A and you look at boneless wings, that's essentially what they are. You know, they're like Chick-fil-A nuggets are cut up pieces of chicken. They don't like McDonald's nuggets. It's like a paste that they shape into a boot. You know,
Yeah. Exactly.
but I don't know. I feel like the key difference is that it's rolled in sauce. Like that's the difference.
So, can you say that they're fancy chicken nuggets?
I feel like they're fancy chicken nuggets
Fancy
for
chicken
Yeah.
sure.
nuggets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
yeah,
what
yeah.
that's where we're at too.
Uh, the the uh, the thing about the lottery question you guys were asking, I've talked to when I was first starting out in stand up. I was talking to a dude, and we were talking about like what we do if we made it. And one of the guys said something that was very poignant. Was he said everyone has their thing, you know. Everyone. It doesn't matter if it's clothes, watches, cars, women, something. Everyone has their thing that they're going to spend a ton of money on.
Mhm.
Like, and you might see someone else's thing and be like, why would you spend? Like, I feel like it's weird. Albeit I have some nice clothes. There's some clothing out there that's just. I came across a thing on TikTok that was like they were doing a fit check on this old couple, and the woman, you knew all the brands, or at least I did. You know, there might have
Yeah.
been one I was like, I don't know what that is, but the majority of Chanel and all the things you
Michael Kors and
Louboutins and yeah,
yeah.
and then the guy he looked like just a random old guy dressed normally, and the coat he was wearing was everyone was talking about it in the comments. Started with a Z. I forget the name of the company, but everyone's like, this guy's just casually talking about a Zillow coat, whatever the company was, and I was like, what the fuck is that? And I googled it. His coat was like $14,000,
Holy
and
shit!
it was like a puffy jacket, like a vest puffy jacket or something. It was like
Wow.
12 grand or something. I'm like, who the fuck is paying 12 goddamn $1,000 for a jacket?
Yeah, I
Like,
will never be. I mean, I say that now, but I I don't think I can ever get into fashion, like buy
yeah.
these clothes and like I
I
have
don't believe in it.
bigger priorities. You know what I'm saying?
Well, here's the thing for me about that is like the moment you buy that and wear it, the value's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can,
Exactly.
I mean, you could sell vintage clothing, I guess, but I mean, for me, I wear something until it's falling apart, and then I buy the
Exactly.
next thing. Like I just don't see. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love to look good at some point, and you know, I guess if I get invited to a premiere, I'm gonna have to go buy a suit. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like I used to be in the corporate world, and I had like khakis and slacks and button ups and stuff. And when I went into stand up and acting, I got rid of all that shit. Like I don't, I have no idea. Some move I gave, I had a bunch of Michael Kors shirts that were given to me that I gave away to people. And I was like, here, I don't wear these things anymore because it was like this is so much more comfortable.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, I love
Oh yeah.
wearing t. I'm a t-shirt and jeans kind of dude. And
Same.
I mean, if I'm dressing up, I put on a button-up shirt, of which I think I have maybe three now. And I mean, the other ones are in storage from the strike. Um, but yeah, I'll put on a coat, a button-up, and jeans, and I love that look.
Yeah, and
But
yeah, and
like,
you're fine with that. Yeah, exactly.
dude, I had a buddy of mine who he got married to this chick, and it turns out she was embezzling money from her work. She ended up going to prison, but she embezzled like
That's an easy way out.
over
I
over
know, right?
$100,000 or a couple $100,000, and they were at like he didn't know. He didn't know she was, you know.
Yeah.
spending all this money or whatever. And like they went after him for a little bit. I knew this guy in college, and I was like, how did you not know that she was spending it? Like, what was she spending it on? And what he told me was, he's like, here's the thing, a $400 pair of jeans looks exactly like a $30 pair of jeans. You know, like that. You know, there's maybe some more stitching on the ass. Like it's they don't look that much different.
Yeah.
You know, so he's like how was I to know she had tens of thousands of dollars in her closet
Yeah.
in clothing?
Yeah.
Basically, she worked for like a lawyer who was like some sort of law where they had to have like this big account full of money
Yeah.
for like escrow or something that was never supposed to be touched, and she just kept withdrawing it out of there because she had the ability to, and she went through like 100 grand or 200 grand or some shit.
God damn, man, that's crazy, bro.
Fucking
Adam,
insanity.
I want to thank you for coming on, bro. I
Dude, this is a
appreciate,
fucking blast, man.
dude.
Oh,
Right?
this isn't nothing. Like now that we got the introductions down and what you're doing, the next time you come on, it's gonna be we're
like
gonna
we'll
take it up a
bullshit even.
notch.
Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah, we're
bullshit
gonna
even
Dude,
more and talk
we're
about
gonna
random
have some
stuff.
shit to talk about next time.
Oh yeah, and we'd love to have you back on, bro. We'd love to have you
Let's
on.
do it, man.
But I want to say congratulations on all your achievements at being
Thank
an
you.
actor, and it's really great seeing people succeed in life. I've always been that person to love seeing people succeed.
Yeah, I don't understand. There's some people that get jealous or it bothers them, and I don't understand that. Like
Me neither.
it just it makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they're just unhappy people.
Oh
Like
yeah, that's exactly what it is.
that.
That's exactly
But
what it is. But yeah, like I
thank you
said,
for
thank you.
inviting me on. I'm sorry.
Of
I'm sorry
course,
it
man.
took a little bit to make it happen.
No,
But
you're a busy man, bro. You're a busy man.
it's been a crazy couple of weeks.
And once you're able to come on and tell your news that your news that you have coming out, we'd love to have you on and get into more
Yeah.
depth if you want, or as much
Yeah,
depth
sure.
as you can. But
Yeah.
thank you again, Adam, for coming on. If you could tell the people where they could find you on social media if they want to reach out or anything like that.
Yeah, dude. Adam Murray Live on everything, like on TikTok, on YouTube, on Instagram, any of those things. You can find
Yeah.
me.
And we'll put all his stuff in the description below. So, guys, go reach out to Adam, and if you guys have any questions, follow him on TikTok. He puts some very cool TikToks out. I'm always watching them, and very funny. But thanks again,
Yeah,
Adam,
but
for coming on, bro.
if anyone has any questions or whatever that I didn't answer on here, feel free to ask me. I'll answer as best I can.
Yeah, appreciate it. Candid, if you
Yeah.
could tell the people where they can find you on social media, please.
Yeah, you can find me the Candy Camper with an extra R on Instagram, and you can find me the Candy Camper just how you see it spelled down below on Twitter. Where else am I now? YouTube. YouTube's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so just follow me, like me, ask me questions. I'm here. I got nothing else to do.
Guys, and follow Candid. He puts card pulls that he has on his Instagram. So if you guys are interested in that, go follow him on Instagram. If you guys want to follow me on social media, Tones_TV on all platforms. Also follow the Bat Dot Studios, where we do TV reviews and TV show reviews, movie reviews, reactions to trailers, stuff like that. So if you're interested, go ahead and follow that. But I hope you guys have a great night. Love y'all.
Peace.